Awesome. Finally, thank you so much for coming today. Today we're going to talk about reinventing your culture. As you know, this is our Reinventing Childcare series, and culture is actually one of my favorite topics of the entire 12 months. And I'm sure a lot of you are here today for a lot of different reasons. And it may be that you're looking to try some new things to make your culture better. Maybe you have been trying new things, but your retention rate just isn't improving. Maybe your employees' frustrations are threatening your business. It could be that you have a really tense work environment, and despite your best efforts, employees are becoming more and more disengaged, and maybe productivity is starting to drop. Or maybe it's just that you've hit a wall. You know, you are tired of constantly trying the same thing over and over, and you just feel like you're going nowhere as far as your culture goes. And so I know this from personal experience that it can be really frustrating to be a leader, and you can get really discouraged at times when your team is in a slump, and you have to be the one to pull yourself out of that slump and be able to lead your team, and that can be very difficult because it is lonely at the top. So when I took over my child care center, we had huge turnover. Teachers did not look out for each other. We had a lot of burnout, and there was favoritism that was going on in the office, and we had to constantly deal with teachers giving notice. And so, you know, what happens from that is that your families get upset too. So it's not just the fact that your team might be in a slump, but that slump kind of rolls over into your families and into your children. So I definitely feel your pain. So I'm going to start with a poll. I haven't tried one of these yet, so I'm going to launch this poll. And basically, I want to know, how would you describe your work culture today? So you should see a question on your screen on how you would describe your work culture today. And so I would appreciate if you could go ahead and vote. I'll give you a little bit more so we can get some new people that came on a chance to jump in. Again, we are going to start off today's presentation on culture with a little poll on how you would describe your culture today. No one else is going to see your answer, so please make sure that you feel really honest about where your center currently is at. Looks like we have a really good mix so far. Great, I'm going to go ahead and, if you can see the results, we're a pretty good mix. We have some people that have happy and engaged employees. On the other end of the spectrum, we have people that have disengaged and unhappy employees. And then we also have friendly and collaborative environments, which are great. But on the other end of the spectrum, we've got some people that have that backbiting and gossiping. And then finally, we have some environments that you know, feel like there's no praise given and there's a lack of team spirit. So we definitely are going to address all these different topics today. I'll share these results. As you can see, we have some happy and engaged employees, disengaged employees, friendly and collaborative, backbiting, gossip, and no praise and lack of team spirit. So for those of you that feel your environment is healthy already, I hope that you're going to walk away with some great content on how to keep that momentum going. And for those that are experiencing the opposite end of the spectrum and may have some turbulence in your environment, I hope that you walk away with some new things to help change your organization. And so this is me real quick. I don't want to get too deep in because I think a lot of you have been with me every month. I'm Caroline Jens, the founder of Childcare Biz Help, And Childcare Biz Help has been, been about 2.5 years now. We're coming on 3 years. And prior to Childcare Biz Help, I was an executive director for a multi-location childcare center here in Wisconsin. And today in the background, in case you hear her or in case she chimes in, Miss Justina's back there, and she is a marketing guru for childcare and pretty much knows everything there is to know about childcare. And she's amazing. And also we have Mr. Gunny, my boxer's here. He's asleep on the floor. You can't see him right now, but he might make an appearance today if he pops up. So let's get started. So for the next 30 minutes, our mission is really to do the following. I want to focus your leadership style, because let's be honest, it is about us personally. It has to start with us, and it's how we lead. So we have to focus our leadership style. And then we need to make the right choices that inspire emotion. So we may think the things that we're doing are right, and they probably are, but if they're not inspiring our team to act, then are they really worth it? And then finally, that emotion that we're creating to inspire movements in our organization, those movements are what's really going to reinvent the culture in your center. And so the why, I always love starting with the why. Why worry about culture? But a healthy culture impacts literally everything. And it affects your recruitment. When your culture is in the right place, you can use those experiences that you're feeling in your center to help you recruit. Your employees are then out there being ambassadors for you, and they're out there bragging about where they work. And you know, when your culture's not right, you don't have employees giving referrals for other teachers because they just really don't care about sharing where they work. So healthy culture really is the bottom line to help you recruit. And it's also going to help you enroll families. It's easier to enroll families when your employees are happy. You know, when someone comes in for a tour, they're going to immediately see if there's tension in your staff, if your teachers are not happy, if they're not smiling in their classrooms or smiling as they walk down the hallways. And your teachers are not going to be out there trying to bring in enrollment with you. So definitely culture does affect enrollment. And then retention. So why would a family or why would another teacher even stay with your organization if they're feeling any type of negativity or toxicity in your culture? So a healthy culture really does affect your retention. And then finally, your children, you know, you're just like at home. If mom and dad aren't right, yeah, the children are going to feel the effects. And it's exactly the same in your childcare center. And then finally, all of that rolls down into your finances. And just like in my book, Profits Childcare Success Formula, everything that you do right flows back into your finances and help creates more profits for your childcare center. So a healthy culture is going to bring in more enrollment, reduce your recruitment costs, and ultimately affect your bottom line. And actually, this last week, I was at a roundtable in California, and I think I have some California peeps out here, but if you were at the Sequel conference, we did a roundtable on enrollment and marketing, and the real foundation to be able to market and enroll for your childcare center really starts at the core of your childcare center, and that's understanding who you are, but not only understanding who you are, but believing who you are. And getting that staff buy-in. The only way you're going to be able to market successfully is if your staff really believe in your product. And what's really cool is that next month, Justina is going to be teaching on that very subject. And so I encourage you to tune in next month because we're really going to dive deeper into getting that buy-in from your team. So what would your employees say? I'd like you just to take a moment of just some self-reflection, but what would your employees say if you ask them if your company is delivering on the following promises? Do you feel cared for? Do we empathize with you? Do we deliver on our promise? Are you proud to be an employee of ours? Did you learn new things here? And do we do things in a unique way? If you were to ask every one of your employees these questions, do you think they would answer yes to all of them? And so I would encourage you that if 100% of your employees can't answer yes to all of these questions, that you really need to take a deeper dive into areas that you feel you might be lacking in, and that will help you definitely improve your culture. And so here's the magic question. So how do you change your culture? And honestly, this is a really big statement. And during 30 minutes, we could trade on culture for months, honestly. So in 30 minutes, I came up with 2 ideas just to really pinpoint that you could take away that could make big changes with just small adjustments. And my hope is that you would just concentrate on these 2 areas that I'm going to talk about, and you'll have the biggest impact. So we have to learn to make smart choices as childcare leaders. And when we make those smart choices that lead to movements within your team, that's going to inspire change in your center. And so when I think of a movement, I think of something that starts off small, right? It's something small that's going to slowly gain momentum. And then when a united group of people in a company all start going in that same direction toward that same purpose, something really amazing is going to happen. So it's either something amazing or something really negative. So we need to make sure that we are the ones that initiate that movement in our organization. And that movement has to be that your childcare center is going to be a positive work environment. It is going to be a place where there's not backbiting. It is going to be a place where people feel praised and appreciated. And so that is the kind of movement that you need to start as a leader, because it starts with you. And so I came up with this concept. Well, I didn't create it, so let's just be honest. It's called a leadership brand. So a way to really look deep at yourself as a leader and to hold yourself accountable is to establish a leadership brand. And this leadership brand is going to define how you want others to perceive you as a leader. Your effectiveness in knowing your own brand and living it. So that's the most important. You can't just put on paper the kind of leader that you want to be. You have to live it. And so when you're able to live this brand that you're going to create with the tools I give you today, if you can live that brand, that will make or break your success. It's going to impact your image, your reputation, and the relationships that you form at your center. And as a result, it's going to impact your overall culture. So how do you create a leadership brand that others are going to want to follow? Because that's the most important part. You don't want to create this random idea of what kind of leader that you're supposed to be if no one else is going to follow it. So to do this, let's really understand, what does leading really mean? And I thought this was neat. I went and I looked up the definition of leading. And the definition of leading means to go with someone, to show someone the way by going in front or beside them, and then be a reason or a motivation for someone. And this just really, really hit me hard, because what's really cool is when you lead, you're going with others. You're taking them with you. You're not always in the front, but sometimes you have to be alongside them and bring them along with. And you have to be the reason sometimes to motivate them to want to be their best. And so that's what leading really means. It doesn't mean you just get to tell people what to do, or you're the one that sets policies and procedures. But think of leading in a different way. Think of it as you're going alongside with your team, motivating them to be something better than they ever thought they could be. And then knowing that your impact is bigger than just that one employee, just that 30 employees, or however many employees that you have. It's not only them, but it's their family. It's the families and the children at your center. It's your personal family, and it's yourself. So there's all those people that you're impacting. And when we really grasp that as leaders, we're impacting so much more than we can even imagine. It really helps you find meaning to what you do. So then our purpose becomes so big that it helps drive our actions. It helps keeps us, out of that slump. Because remember, as leaders, it can be really lonely to be there by yourself. But if you remember that your purpose every day is so much bigger than yourself, it becomes a little easier to do what you're doing. And I hate to say the word easier because I know your jobs are really, really difficult. But when your purpose is beyond being stuck in your mind and beyond yourself, it'll make it worthwhile. And number 3, be confident in that purpose. So once you really understand your purpose, and I'll give you an example of what mine is. So here's a sample statement I came up with my purpose. And I did this so that I could confidently lead and truly understand what my purpose is. And so it's everything I do is for the children, the employees, all of our families. That by expressing unwavering faith in our ability to create an environment where all that want to can thrive. I commit that all I do in word and thought and deed will communicate that. And I will walk shoulder to shoulder with all of those along the way. So that's kind of my bigger purpose statement. And every once in a while, if I have to remind myself of that big purpose, that's going to help me get me through my day. And then I can be confident in that purpose. And I'm not going to let anyone else talk me out of that purpose or diminish my dreams, right? And then 4th, you're going to define how you will create value for your team. So this is important. There's so many different ways that we can feel pulled on how to appreciate and lead and inspire our team, that it can be overwhelming and then you're doing so many things, you're just not doing them well. So I encourage you to define how you're going to create value for your team. And by doing this, you could be the person that people choose to follow. So you could be that mentor, that role model. You could provide vision for them for the future. You could provide inspiration. So you could be that inspirational person. That's how you're going to bring value to your team. You can make other people feel important and appreciated. You could live your values. So by showing that you're living your values, you could be, again, that really good role model for them. And that's how you might bring value to them. You could set the pace. There's a lot to be said about walking the walk. If you're asking your staff to do certain things and you're not willing to do that, you're not really setting the pace for your organization, you're just dictating. And then providing opportunities for people to grow, both personally and professionally. And a lot of what's going on right now is a lot of that dream movement and really helping your employees, dream their personal dreams and helping them achieve them. That's something that's really cool that you can do. That's kind of that really deep value that affects your employees on that really personal level. And then celebrating the small wins, and that we're going to talk about that next, because that's the second thing that I really want you to concentrate on. So the first is really developing who you are as a leader, creating this leadership brand. And then secondly, it's going to be on celebrating small wins. And then 5th, great leaders. I love this. I read this last night and I had to add this to my slide. Great leaders ask on a regular basis why their employees stay. That can be a scary question because you might be able to read their body language that tells you otherwise, that they might not be staying. But it really is an important question to ask because the answer is different for every person. And because of that, the answers can surprise you, which is good. You wanna be continuously up to date on the different changes that your employees go through. Because my answer today might be very different than my answer 6 months from now. And what's more is I'm sure some of you may feel, you might feel that you're going to regret not having this conversation when your best people choose to leave. You could really discover some things if you learn to ask this question before someone leaves. It might be that turning point where they decide that you really care about them and they will want to stay with your organization. So again, creating a leadership brand, understanding what leading really means, knowing your bigger purpose, being confident in that purpose, defining how you're going to create value for your team, and then just asking on a regular basis why employees stay with you. And then I did create a tool for you that if you go ahead and email me, I'll send it out to you. And it's just a simple tool on how to actually create that leadership brand by asking yourself these 3 questions. How will I create value for my team? What direction do I want to take my center? And what do I want to accomplish with my team? And what will I do differently as a leader to make this happen? Because again, this starts with you. So a lot of times, again, it could be that you're burnt out and that burnout is coming across with your team. It could be that you're frustrated. I know I was in the same spot. I was so frustrated. I thought that I was constantly giving and no one was giving back. And that's a really hard place to be. And it's really hard to turn around. So if you're at that point, I would suggest getting a mentor, getting a small group of people within your center that you can confide in. And again, it takes just a couple to unite toward one vision to really create momentum. So if it's you and one other person, the 2 of you bind together can make some movement within your organization. It just takes time. And then, so celebrating wins. This is a really fun thing that you can do that's easy to do when you go back after lunch. Inspiring your team can be easy. We often fail to celebrate wins just because of our crazy schedules in childcare, but they can have a huge impact. If you gloss over your team's successes without recognition, what does that say about you as a leader? How are people going to perceive you? That you just don't care? You know, a couple of you had said that they felt there was no praise in the organization or they felt disengaged. By celebrating wins, you're going to help resolve some of that. In some ways, you can do that. Oops. Went too fast. We automatically hit the end. Okay, we have 7 minutes left. I'm doing good today. So some ways that you can celebrate wins is to motivate your team to continue delivering good work. So if your employees feel appreciated and know their efforts are being noticed, they're going to even become more productive. So when you see someone, you know, having a great conversation with a parent, if you see someone doing some really great exercises in their classroom with their children, take that extra moment to go in there and really celebrate what that employee is doing. Because even if you saw teacher walking down the hallway, they notice that there's a piece of paper on the floor and they actually take the time to bend down, grab up that piece of paper. I know that's really difficult, but I know if you're like me, you've watched people pass by that piece of paper over and over, but then you get that one employee that's willing to stop and actually pick up the piece of paper. That's a win to celebrate. You know, I would praise that employee for taking that time to actually be worried about the cleanliness of your center. Secondly, we want to unify the team around a positive outcome. And so if there's members of your team who are struggling to get along, remind them when they come together under a common goal and how they were able to achieve things that they normally wouldn't have been able to do if they were doing it solo. So trying to get people together in teams to come together to generate some kind of positive outcome, have them lead something in a staff meeting. So grab a couple people that you know maybe don't get along so well, have them orchestrate something in one of your staff meetings, and then hopefully the outcome is going to be great and you'll be able to give them some praise. And then remind the team that they work for a winning organization. You know, we can't just be hum and drum right now. In childcare right now, there's a lot of great things happening. It's becoming quite the industry. And we have wait lists, we have cash, we have childcare centers expanding. There's a lot of really great things to celebrate in childcare right now. Let employees know that they work for a winning organization. You know, let them know. There's been years, I know when I started in childcare, we were struggling to get enrollment. It was a difficult time. We were having to cut back on teacher hours, and that's not the case right now. So celebrate the fact that we are working for winning organizations. And then allow, celebrate wins when your coworkers are connecting on a different level. So if they're trying to make some personal connections or going out at night, make sure you recognize the fact that you appreciate that they're getting together on a social level. Because in order to, a good way to retain your staff is when they're out there kind of socializing after hours, if they're volunteering together, whatever it is they're doing, that's those bonds that get formed to where that keeps them working at your same company. And then celebrating wins, you know, it allows you to reward specific employees. So when you're really clear about what went well, and you're actually able to name employees for things that they did great, or great ideas they shared, or deadlines that were met, and just really be able to share and reward that person in front of the group for their efforts. You know, you're setting the pace in your organization for some really positive things in your culture. So I encourage you to think of some ways that you can celebrate wins within your organization, and don't overdo it. You know, you don't have to stress yourself out and have all these parties. It could be little thank you notes. It could be pats on the back. Yes, it could be food, because honestly, we all love food. It could be that you give them 2 hours of, you know, 2 extra hours paid, you know, whatever it is. But I would encourage you to think of different ways that you could identify and celebrate different wins within your center. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I have this leadership brand tool that I'm going to go ahead and I will email you after this. And I encourage you to fill it out. There is a commitment line that you can sign at the bottom that says that you're committed to reinventing the culture at your center, and you're committed to doing it on a daily basis. And you're going to do that by remembering your bigger purpose as to why you lead, and through communicating and celebrating small wins. And if you want me to hold you accountable, I would love to hold you accountable. Feel free to fill out the worksheet and send it back to me signed, and I will be glad to check in on you and see how you're doing and help you out any way that I can. And so to recap, culture change takes time, so it doesn't happen overnight. Focus on 2 small things. Change the perspective of your leadership by clearly defining your leadership brand, and celebrate small wins. You're going to slowly build credibility as you continually focus on just these 2 areas. And then I read this last night, and again, I had to add it, and I just thought this was amazing. This was on a Gallup poll about culture. It says, great cultures are not generic cultures. They are directed at a specific outcome. The best organizations don't try to be everything to everyone. They find a few things worth obsessing over that are critical to the success and that differentiate them in the marketplace. Then they build their culture around those things. Culture is the difference between getting the job done and getting the job done in a way that differentiates your organization and adds value in a unique way to your customers. How cool is that? I can email you that, because I just thought that was just the neatest statement. Go ahead, define your culture, create a culture that differentiates you from the childcare center down the street. And when you're able to do that successfully, unite your team, build momentum, you're going to find that you're going to be retaining, recruiting, enrolling, and your bottom line is going to be much healthier. Our next Reinvent webinar topic is April 23rd. It's on reinventing your marketing. Like I had mentioned earlier, Miss Justina is going to be training next month. I'll be here with her, trying not to step on her toes. So we're going to be talking about some really cool things. And then again, if you're interested in my Need Another You program, feel free to email me at info@childcarebizhelp.com. We also have our new sales and marketing platform that is taking off. Amazing. love it, and we can't wait to share it with every child care center across the world. So you guys, you have a great afternoon. Thanks for having lunch with me. We'll see you next month.